Good evening, everyone. I am very excited to be here with you this evening, covering the different types of bobs. And when we're looking at different bobs, one of the main things that I always look at is what is the actual structure. So bobs, I don't think will ever go out of style. They are classic. They are a constant, and I don't think they're ever going to go away. But the reason for that is that there are so many different types of bobs, and there's a length for everybody, there's a style and a shape for everybody. So what I wanted to do today is actually cover kind of the structure of a bob. And this is actually the second part in my Sharp Scissors Society series. Oh, thank you. I'm glad I'm your favorite lady. That makes me feel great. It's the second part in my Sharp Scissors Society classes, which for the month, which is my private membership, online membership, which is $14.97 a month. And you just go to seriousbeauty.com to join. And we do expanded back pocket techniques, which are expanding on the different things that I do on Instagram. Also, I'm doing some classic cutting techniques, which this is part of that series. So when you're looking at a bob, what I wanted to share with you guys is that there's three different types of bobs, really, to me. There's your one length bob. There's a classic one length, which looks similar to this. So we have a one length line, and it's just, it's a blunt line, beautiful. Everything falls at one length. Then we have our graduated bobs, and those are the ones that sit above the hairline. So these are the ones that work and stack up. Then our third is our layered bobs. And to me, these are what are really popular right now. So the layered bobs have a structured line to them, and then they have some of this beautiful layering just sitting across the top. So I know I won't be able to get to all of your questions tonight, but if you would like to type them in the chat, hopefully I'll see them as they go by. So let's take a look at the structure first of a bob. Now, I always look at my felt head. And when I'm looking at this, what I'm looking at is there's different pattern pieces on the head form. And where do those pattern pieces exist inside of the haircut? So how much of the hair is actually at one length in a bob? How much of it is layered? And how much of it might be graduated? So when we're looking at this, in a graduated bob, it's very common for it to be graduated all the way. I'm trying to get this tighter. Here we go. It's very it's common for this nape area and some of the back to be graduated. And then the top sits a little bit heavier. Layered bobs, maybe we have a lot of the hair at one length and then the layers sit on top. And of course, one length bobs are all one length. So the difference, let's talk about this for just a second. The difference between layering and graduation, to me, is really interesting. So let's take our one length bob. All of the hair is falling exactly at one spot. So all of the hair from all these different areas that we just talked about is falling down into one area. So all of the hair comes down to that one length line, and we cut that off. Now, when we're talking about graduation, graduation will always be shorter on the bottom and longer on the top. Okay, so I'm waiting for some questions for you guys. I haven't seen any questions yet. Okay, so graduated bobs, or any type of graduation, will always be shorter on the bottom and longer on top. That's what creates that beautiful expanded kind of a triangular shape, like that. On the other hand, layering will always be, hang on, I see one. Fascinates me. Oh, you're not in the industry. I have a lot of people that follow me that aren't in the industry and just find it interesting. I have a gal that I follow that does a ton of charcoal drawings, and I find it just absolutely beautiful to watch. So I can totally understand that. So layering, on the other hand, if graduation is shorter on the bottom, longer on top, layering is exactly the opposite. Layering will always be shorter on top and longer on the bottom. That's what creates layering and that removal of weight. Or it can also be, just like we learned in beauty school, right? It can be rounded. So we can create that. Okay, so yeah, graduation is exactly the opposite of layering. So if we wanted to take, let's say this gal right here, And we wanted to grow her out into a shag where she's got layers on top and longer on the bottom. This would be the shortest area and would have to grow out the furthest. So she couldn't have a shag until this grows a good 6 inches. So she has a year of growth, okay? Exactly the opposite if someone wanted a bob like this, but they had a shag and this was short and this was long. And so it's this gradual shape shifting that happens when you want to turn a cut inside out. So I have a question. Can you combine layering and graduation inside of one haircut? Of course you can. You can have layering, a little bit of one length, a little bit of graduation, and then a few layers on top. So you can cut all different techniques into a bob. I wanted to show you on my little gal here the difference between one length layering and graduation. So let's go over here. I always like using different mediums. I think it's very interesting. Okay, question, do I start all bobs in the nape area? Usually yes. I wouldn't say all. If I'm doing layers, I might put a layering pattern in first and then cut my bob line. But if I am doing a graduated bob, that has to start basically in the nape, I find. For me anyway, I have better luck with it. Okay, my bob. Good question. So someone said, what is my bob considered? I have a lot of people think that my bob is graduated because it has this rounded feeling in the back. My bob is actually a one length bob. So you can see the corner right here. So I've got definitely that corner with a few layers on top, but the line is definitely texturized. So it makes it look like it's a rounded shape. So come here. I guess I don't need my comb for this. Okay, this is going to be, this is going to be my one length bob area. So all of the hair is going to fall down right into this one length line. Okay, so everything is going to be blunt right down at the bottom. Okay, let's take a look now at layering. No, let's go graduation first. Okay, so graduation, remember the hair from what we drew here is always going to be shorter on the bottom and longer on the top. That's what gives us that beautiful buildup of weight, and it allows that bob to sit up above the hairline area. It gives that nice rounded shape. So that will be, let's go in here, let's see if I can do this. These are my first pair of beauty school scissors, and I've been out of school for a number of years, and it has my name on it, which is Sana. And they were my mom's scissors when I got done with them. Her name was Sana as well. And she cut my dad's hair with them for years until he passed away. So they hold a special part in my heart, and I always like to use them for this technique. So I'm just going to place my fingers in a graduation shape, so meaning it's shorter under here, longer on top, and I'll just cut this, and we can see the difference in it. Kind of hold it there. Okay. So you can see that little bit of a triangular shape versus the other bob shape that I cut, which was one length. Can you see how I like that view right there. Okay, hi from London. Hi Jay, how are you doing? You guys, Jay Mahmood just jumped on, one of my mentors and extraordinaire persons that cuts hair. You'll probably like this one, Jay. So check out the difference between the one length where it's sitting, just everything falling to one spot, and then my graduated shape. How do you pronounce my last name? It's Brado, and I guess you could pronounce it Brado if you wanted to. Okay, so this is a very low graduation, which means it's going to build a lot of weight. The more vertical you take it, the lighter it will sit, and the more narrow your shape will become. So let's go ahead and let's do that. I'm going to tip my fingers a little bit more narrow. So I'm going to move into a little bit. I've got to be careful with these things. They're not the sharpest blades in the kit, so you got to be careful with them. You know how, like, if you're working with not a really sharp knife in the kitchen, you have to be careful. Okay, so here we go. Hi, Andrea. Yay. Good to see you on. Okay, so here we have the one length bob, and you can see where that is sitting. And then we have our graduation. So where our underneath is a little bit shorter and the top gets longer. So when you look at that, the hair here underneath is shorter than the hair on top, right there. That's what creates graduation and your buildup of weight and shape. Hi. Okay, now let's look at a layered shape because I think it's really interesting the difference. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create some hair that will sit at one length, but then I'm going to elevate the top, and that's going to be shorter because remember in our description over here, layering is always going to be shorter on top and longer on the bottom. If we have some hair at one length, of course that's creating a line, which is our bob, and then we can have layering on top of that. So, and I'll go through on the mannequins afterwards and show you the lines that were cut on them. So here we have, let's see, let's go right there. Perfect. So we're getting ready to leave tomorrow for Chicago for the America's Beauty Show. And I think I have a sold out class. I'm doing a short hair hands-on class on Sunday. But I do have 2 demo classes that I'm doing. One is called Sweet Spot Bob. So where can you take a bob and then how do you create a nice shattered feeling while still keeping some structure in it? And then on Sunday is my hands-on, and then Monday is, I think it's fringes, so bangs, called Bang It Out. It's too hard to see with the comments. Let me see if I can lower this. Hang on, see if that's better. Does that feel better? Is that better? Let me know. Okay, hopefully I'm up high enough. Okay, maybe a little bit more. All these things you gotta learn, right? Okay, there we go. Okay, so now I'm going to create some one length hair at the bottom. So, okay, good. Yes, that's a little bit better. Okay, so I've got my one length hair. So let's say we have, cut that off. We have all of the hair from, let's say the nape area, and part of this back is down at one length. That's what we're simulating with this little spot right here. Maybe one more. Let's give it one more. We want a little bit more structure at the bottom. Okay, so we have a little bit more structure down at the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to lift this up. The bottom falls out. And I'm going to create some layers up here on top. Just cutting a little square up on top. Might have to take it shorter. Oh, we do. Okay. There we are. Ah, perfect. Okay. So now what you can see is you can see that we have shorter pieces on top, and we're sitting on top of, that's that graduation at the bottom. Hang on, get rid of that guy. There we go. Sitting on top of our one length line. So what we have is we have a removal of weight on top of an actual line. So inside of this little yarn mannequin right here, we have layering on top of a bob. We have graduation, which is longer on top, shorter on the bottom, creating our angle. And then on the opposite side, we have the one length, where everything falls at one length. So let's take a look on the actual mannequins and see what that is. But guess what, you guys? Cheers. I'm getting ready to go on, not vacation, it's work. America's Beauty Show is not vacation. But our flight did get moved. We were supposed to leave at 6 a.m. and now we're leaving, I think at 10 or something. So, you know, make it work. At least I get to sleep in. Okay, so taking a look at this, we have all of the hair falling right at one length. So everything with inside of all of my pattern pieces, and I go in depth into all of this type of thing inside of my Sharp Scissors Society. So once again, you go to seriousbeauty.com and look up Sharp Scissors Society, and all the information is in there. So what we have is we have the hair at the nape area, right here, falling and being cut off at one length. All of the hair in the back and the sides, all of that hair is also at one length. Then we have all of the hair on the top, so in the crown area and the top, and all of that also comes down to one length. So everything inside of this particular bob is in that same primary form of hair cutting, which is one length. Let's take a look at graduation. Okay, so graduation is that buildup of weight and that shorter underneath, longer on top. So when we go in and we look at this, and I actually used pivoting sections. So I worked from vertical right in the nape into pivoting. So I worked almost into almost a horizontal, a little bit of a diagonal in through the front. So when we take a look at that, what we have is we have that, just like I showed you on the yarn, shorter underneath and longer on top. So this is what creates that buildup of weight and allows you to sit a shape up above the hairline. And I love a good graduated bob. I think they're so beautiful and just feminine. So that's a graduated shape. Now let's take a look at layering. And I saw somebody earlier that was excited about doing undercut bobs. And that's one thing. I'm actually in Toronto coming up soon. I get home next week and then I leave for Toronto, and we're doing a show. It's called an On Tour for KMS and Goldwell. And it's absolutely just the greatest show. I'm up there with Jacob Kahn, and we are, oh, thank you, Brenda. She says she loves the education. Love it. We are teaching a couple of different haircuts, and I'm doing a really cool undercut bob with a zigzag parting. It's really fun. So here we go. Let's look at the bob along with, there we go. Let's see if we can get her in there. Okay, so now when we take a look at the different pattern pieces for this, we have the nape area right here and part of the back again. And this is something you can decide with each client depending on their density patterns and how much, how thick they want the bottom. So all of this area is down at one length. So you can see that corner, that really strong line that I've created. Then we're going to be up above that, and you can take a look and see that this has a layering pattern in it. Now, what I think is really current right now is, we're seeing kind of that return of a 90s type of feel, almost that Lisa Rinna kicking out type of shape. And I love that in a bob because it is, to me, it's really like a freeing thing to not always round everything out and blend everything to death. So this is kind of that kick out right at that corner there. So that's created from the hair hanging at one length and then the hair being pulled up top here. What happens is there's a really strong corner. Can you see that? Yeah, a strong corner in between that if we did more of a rounded layer, that would go away. So see how high up that is? That comes from the hair being pulled up here and also it reaching down here. So that's that little bit of a corner that gives a, kind of almost an unblended kick to the hair. So I'm just really kind of digging that right now. So that was basically what I wanted to share with you guys tonight. I'm going to be doing a class. Don't want you to see my messy room back there. You can only see this good stuff. I'm doing a class in Columbus, Ohio. That is going to be a hands-on class. We're going to be working with disconnection. It's a full-day class. Cost is $5.50. You can go on to my seriousbeauty.com and also in my link in bio, and to check that out, it's on Eventbrite, and that is going to be on June 12th. So that's coming up, and then also I will be in Atlanta on July 8th and 9th doing a 2-day intensive hands-on program, and that is going to cover my very I have a really strong consultation method that I use, a design method based on the pattern pieces, and also working with the fabric of hair. So that's June 12th in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, and then July 8th and 9th in Atlanta. So I'm all over the place, you guys. So thank you so much for joining me this evening and for your questions. I appreciate them. Always remember that education leads to knowledge. Knowledge creates confidence, and confidence is what I want you to have when you're working behind the chair. So you guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and hopefully I'll see some of you in Chicago. We are at booth number 1601. So if you're going to Chicago, stop by and say hi. I would love to meet you. Bye. Have a good evening.